Thank you, Kun Pong. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. As I think Kru Pong has mentioned, I'm here visiting from the UK, and it's always a great pleasure to be able to visit your lovely country. I congratulate you because I understand that you have all achieved very well in the various Olympiad competitions. So I congratulate you on that. But I would like that to be, for all of you, I hope, the beginning of a very exciting academic career for you all. Okay, the beginning. There is a long way to go. And I hope as well that what you have heard from the previous very excellent speaker, and perhaps also from what I will say to you today, that it will further inspire you with regard to your future studies, and particularly your future studies overseas, in the hope that that is something that you will be able to pursue. Okay, so I'm going to be talking specifically about preparing for entry into top UK universities. From the little that I know about all of you, I would say to you that if you go to study in the UK, you absolutely should be aiming to get to the top universities, the very best universities for the particular course that you want to study. Okay, I would consider that it would not be a very good outcome if you were to go to study in the UK and you were going to the universities that are ranked 30 or 40. I don't think that would be a good outcome. I think for you people, you should be aiming much higher than that. There are 150 roughly universities, I think, in the UK now. But all of you in this room should be aiming to go to universities in the top 20, and very probably in the top 10. And I think for most of you, you should be aiming for universities in the top 5. There are certain exceptions because it depends on what subject you want to study. So, for example, some students want to study management. Well, if you want to study management, you perhaps can't do it at the very top of universities because maybe Oxford and Cambridge don't offer those courses. Oxford does offer economics and management, but it doesn't offer management. If you want to study something like accounting, you cannot study that at Oxford, you cannot study it at Cambridge. Okay, so there are certain reasons why sometimes you might have to aim for a university that is very, very good for your course, but might not be the very, very top-ranked university. Okay. The first thing to say is that it is extremely competitive, of course, to get into the very top universities. Do any of you know, can you name some universities that you think are top universities in the UK? I think everybody is going to name 2, but can you name, apart from the O and the C, can you name any others? Which other universities have you heard of in Britain that might? Manchester. Okay, Manchester is a good university that would rank for most subjects in the top 20, but actually it wouldn't. There would be no rankings in which Manchester would rank in the top 5. Okay, which universities do you think might come in the top 5? Well, that's a tricky answer, because the University of London consists of a number of different universities, and 3 of them feature quite regularly in the top 5 of the rankings. They are Imperial College London, which is absolutely excellent, particularly for science and engineering courses. The London School of Economics, also part of the University of London, which is particularly excellent for, well, it's actually the London School of Economics and Political Science, which kind of gives the game away. It is particularly excellent for economics and politics, but also management and finance courses. There's also the University College London, which is a very, very good university that also ranks often in the top 5. And there's another university in the University of London called King's College London. Doesn't usually rank in the top 5 overall, but it does have a particularly good medical school for any of you that might be wanting to study medicine. Okay, so the kind of universities that I'm talking about when I'm saying top universities in UK, I'm talking about Oxford, Cambridge, London School of Economics, Imperial College London, University College London. I'm also talking about universities like Warwick, Durham, Bristol, and certain others for particular subjects. I want you to take note, by the end of an A-level course, students from Thailand and many other countries that I have taught can do extremely well in those subjects, as well as in maths and science. Okay, if you do go to study for A-levels in the UK, you will probably be asked to choose 4 subjects. You will probably also be required to do English language lessons in addition to those 4 A-level subjects, because in order to get into university in the UK, you need to demonstrate that your English language is at a certain level, and you're probably not surprised to hear that the higher ranking universities will ask for higher levels of English than some of the others, and also that certain courses will demand higher levels of English language than others. So, for example, if you want to go and study law at Cambridge, then you will require very probably a higher level of English language than somebody who wants to study physics at Cambridge. Okay, it does make a difference which subject you want to study. Choosing your 4 A-level subjects, I think that you need to take into account all of the issues that I've listed on the screen there. Okay, firstly, and pretty obviously, you have to think about which subjects you are going to be able to get high grades in. I've already said, if you don't get straight top grades, you are not going to the very top universities in the UK. Yeah? So if you're going to get to the top universities, you have to do A-level subjects that will enable you to get the top grades that you need to get into the top universities. Hopefully, you can also find some subjects that you can get top grades in, but that you also enjoy. At A-level, you're only doing 4 subjects. Yeah, big change from what you're used to in Thailand. If you're only studying 4 subjects, then that means you're going to spend quite a lot of time each week on each of those subjects. So hopefully it's going to be they're going to be subjects that you like. A third consideration is that there are certain subjects that you must take at A-level in order to be considered for certain degree courses at UK universities. For example, well, no, actually, I'll hold on that. I'll come to it in a moment. And fourthly, and this is quite a tricky area, but the top universities prefer certain A-level subjects to others. Okay, and this is something that you cannot find out reliably very easily. It used to be a little bit easier to find out because the universities used to state it on their websites. But for reasons which I will go into, they don't now state it on their websites. But you are very lucky because you have people around who know these things, and we can tell you, we can advise you of this. Okay, I'm including this slide simply as a means of demonstrating to you that some subjects count more than others with top universities. A student who wants to study at a top university, if they want to study a subject like economics, they might think, or business management, they might think that a sensible choice of A-levels would be mathematics, business studies, accounting, and psychology. All of those subjects are relevant to the world of business and management. But I can almost guarantee that a student who chooses those A-level subjects will not get to Oxford, to Cambridge, to the London School of Economics, to University College London, to Imperial College London, to Warwick. They will not get into those universities no matter how good their grades. And the reason for that is simply that they have chosen too many of the subjects that the top universities don't like so much. There are certain subjects which the top universities value highly, no matter what university course you wish to study. Mathematics, another A-level called further mathematics, any of the sciences, physics, chemistry, biology, modern languages, French, German, etc., history, geography, these subjects, English literature, these subjects are all highly valued by the top universities, no matter what university degree you are applying for. But that doesn't apply to all other subjects. And I'm afraid that business studies, accounting, and quite possibly psychology are not going to be looked upon as favourably by the top universities as math, science, languages, etc. And so this student, they've got maths, which is good, but at least 2 of the other subjects that they're taking at A-level will not be given sufficient weight by the top universities. They will not be offered a place. Almost certainly, 99% certain. I've already touched upon the fact that the top universities will require you to demonstrate that you have an acceptable level of English language to be able to cope with the course that you want to study at university. And that is why, alongside your A-level subject, if you're studying in the UK, you will also be required to have English language lessons until your English reaches the level that the university that you want to go to requires. I would also say to you that if you are going to get top grades in subjects like economics, geography, history, it is necessary to get your English to a pretty high level anyway. Okay, it is, I wouldn't say it is impossible, but it is extremely difficult to get an A grade or an A star grade at A level in a subject like economics, history or geography unless your English language level is at, in terms of if any of you are familiar with IELTS, unless your English language level is at about 6.5 by the time you take the exam. Okay? Not now, but by the time you take the exam. Whichever universities you apply to, and whichever courses you apply for, in the UK you apply through something called the University Central Admissions System, or UCAS. And you are allowed to apply to 5 different universities. Okay, 5 different courses at up to 5 different universities. In most cases, it is purely on the basis of that application that the universities will decide whether to offer you a place or not. One of the unusual aspects of the British education system is that almost all students apply to university before they have finished school, before they have completed A-levels. So when they apply to university, the universities don't know your A-level results. Yeah? So how do they decide whether to offer you a place or not? Well, they decide on the basis of what they see on your UCAS application, which will include your academic record back here in Thailand, and also your academic record in the year or more that you have been in the UK. The A-level program is normally a 2-year program. Students apply to university in their second year, by which time they have the results of the exams which we call AS exams, which they take at the end of the first year. So those examination results will be on that application. And if your A-level, your AS results in your 4 subjects are any worse than A, you are very unlikely to receive an offer from the very top universities. So it is absolutely critical that you get straight top grades in the first year of A-level exams, because they are the results that the universities see on your application. Remember, at that stage, they don't know what you're going to get in your A-levels. They do, however, see predicted A-level grades. These will be provided by your teachers. But of course, the grades that you get in your first year AS exams will have a very strong impact on your predicted grades. If you get an AS grade A in your first year with 100% in all of the examination papers, you can be very confident that your teacher will predict you a top grade. If you get a grade C in your AS examination in the first year, you should not be surprised when a teacher does not predict you an A star for the second year. You will also, on the application, the universities will see a reference from the school or college that you are at, and they will also see a personal statement written by you, the applicant. Two of those things are in your control, and two of them are not in your direct control. Okay, the reference from your school and college, that's written by the principal or vice principal of the school or college. Your predicted grades, they come from the teachers. But you have to do your bit. Make sure that your AS grades are absolutely excellent. Not only with top grades, but it will make a difference when you apply to top universities what actual mark you got in the individual papers. They will expect to see some really high percentage marks as well as just top grades. And of course, your personal statement, that is within your control. But if you are at, as I hope you will be if you go to the UK, if you are at good schools and colleges, you will be given a lot of guidance as to how you can make your personal statement as good as it possibly can be. Something that I didn't say at the beginning, which I should have done, is that hopefully there will be some time for questions at the end. But if you have a question during the talk, just put your hand up and I'll take the question there and then. Okay? If you're like me and you think of a question, by the time the talk's finished, you've forgotten it. Okay? So don't worry. If there's something you want to ask, we can do it as we go along. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's a very good question. The question is, will the teacher tell you your AS grades? The AS examinations, like the A-level examinations, are a national examination. They are not set by your teachers. They are not marked by teachers. Well, they are marked by teachers, but not teachers in your own school. And those examination results, both AS and A-level, go to you. They also go to the school, but they go to you. Okay, so you will know your AS results. You will know your predicted grades as well from your teachers, and that will help you to decide which universities to apply to. If in the first year of your A-level course you get the highest grade you can get at AS is an A, and it goes A, B, C, D, E, fail. If you get, for example, A, B, B, you are probably wasting your time applying to Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial College, London School of Economics. Okay, you need to know that you have got A to have a realistic chance of getting into any of the top 5 universities. And certainly to get to Oxford and Cambridge, you will not only need A, but you will need some very high percentage marks, and you will also need to have a very strong personal statement and reference from your school, and you will need to be predicted outstanding A-level grades as well. Another difference between students applying to Oxford and Cambridge and students applying to other universities. Remember, you can choose 5 universities to apply to, but you may only apply to one of either Oxford or Cambridge. You may not apply to both of those universities. If one of the universities that you are applying to is Oxford or Cambridge, then you have to submit your application earlier than other students. The deadline for Oxford and Cambridge applications for entry to the universities in 2014 has already, I think, just passed. But students who are applying to 5 universities that does not include Oxford or Cambridge, their applications do not have to be in until basically December for entry to the universities in September 2014. Applicants for Oxford, for Cambridge, and for medical schools as well will be required to take a test designed, in the case of Oxford and Cambridge, by the universities themselves. In the case of medicine, designed by the British Medical Association. Tests which you must do in addition to your normal AS and A levels. If you do well enough in those tests, if everything else on your application, your academic grades, your predicted A-level grades, your reference and your personal statement, if they're all good, then you will be invited for an interview. And the performance at interview is absolutely critical again. Okay, so for Oxford and Cambridge and for medical school, you don't only need an excellent UCAS application, you also need to perform well in the university's own tests, and you also need to perform well in an interview. But again, if you are at a good school or college in the UK, then you will be given a lot of support in preparing for those specialist tests and in preparing for the interview. On the screen in front of you is an example of a question from a test that students who are applying to, well, it's a past paper, so it's not going to come up this year. It's from a past paper, and it's from the paper that students who are applying to Oxford to study subjects like economics and management or philosophy and politics and economics, which one of your former prime ministers, a recent former prime ministers, he studied philosophy, politics and economics at Oxford. Except in the days that he went, he didn't have to do a test before the interview. It didn't exist then. Okay, so this paper is called the Thinking Skills Assessment Paper, which students applying to Oxford have to take. I want you to have a careful look at that question. And I want you to think, what is the answer? What I want to, well, actually I will explain a little bit. The last sentence, sorry, no. Carrying a fire extinguisher in your car has no effect whatsoever on the likelihood of a fire occurring in your car. Those two things are totally independent of one another. It's still a very good idea to have the fire extinguisher in the car, because if a fire occurs, then you can use the fire extinguisher to put the fire out. But having a fire extinguisher, I'm afraid, doesn't reduce the likelihood of a fire. Rather like carrying an umbrella does not reduce the likelihood of it raining. Okay, carrying an umbrella doesn't reduce the likelihood of it raining. Still a good idea to have one in case it rains. Okay, carrying a fire extinguisher in your car does not reduce the likelihood of a fire occurring in your car, but it's useful to have one in case a fire does occur. Somebody who doesn't carry a fire extinguisher is no more likely to have a fire in their car than somebody who does. But the reason that I've shown you that question is this. How much do you have to know about fires and fire extinguishers in order to answer the question? Nothing. How much do you have to know about cars? Nothing. In fact, how much do you have to know about anything? Nothing. The whole point of the question is that it is not in any way trying to test your knowledge. It is trying to test how well you can apply logic to a question, an issue that you have never seen before. Students often ask me, before they go for an interview at Oxford or Cambridge, Mr. Grout, what kind of questions are they likely to ask me? Wrong question. My reply will be, I have no idea, but what I can guarantee is that they will ask you about something that you have never ever considered before. And you can't escape that. That's what they're going to try to do. They already know that you have a very good knowledge and understanding of your A-level subjects. They know that. You've already got an A in AS levels in all of your subjects, otherwise you probably wouldn't be at the interview. You've got good predicted grades from your A-levels. They know that you have a good knowledge of your subject. They know that you have a good understanding of their subject. But what they are trying to test is how you can apply logical thinking to something that you have not considered before. They're not interested in whether you can remember something. They're not interested in whether you happen to have read something. They're interested in how you have thought about it. Okay. So what I can say to students, and if they're going for an interview at Oxford or Cambridge or perhaps at London School of Economics, irrespective of what subject they want to study at university, the interviewers, who will be members of the academic departments, are looking for these two things. Firstly, a genuine interest in the course that you are applying for. That might seem strange, but actually, quite a few people apply for courses at universities which are not the courses that they are most interested in. They apply for a course such as economics because they think if I study economics at university, I will become very rich. Complete nonsense. I'm a living example of the fact that you can study economics and not be rich. Okay. Or they study a subject, or they apply to study a subject at university because their parents think that they should study that subject. I'm afraid Oxford and Cambridge are not going to give you a place simply because your parents would like you to study that subject. I'm sorry to say, they're not interested in your parents, they're interested in you. Okay? So they will try to establish whether or not this subject that you are wanting to study is something that you are passionate about and that you will want to study ideally not only as an undergraduate but that you will want to study to a much higher level. Ultimately, remember that those top universities are about research, and what they are looking to produce are the academics of the future. Something else that they're looking for is the ability to think on your feet, to think about something that you have not seen before. And an example was in the test that I just showed you. Okay? And also that you're able to work with minimal supervision. I would say that the level of academic supervision becomes less and less and less as you go up the UK rankings in the UK, at UK universities. If you want to be told how you must approach every aspect of your academic work, if you want to be guided at every step of the way, rather like you are in school, that's not what you're going to get at the top universities, because they are looking to take students and they assume that the students that they accept are capable of working independently. I don't have anything more to say as the formal part of the presentation, but what I hope is that it might lead to some questions that you might like to ask. And I would say at this point as well, please feel free to ask questions about any aspect of UK education. It doesn't have to be something that I have touched upon in my talk. Okay, I will do my best to answer any question whatsoever on UK education. Okay, any questions? Who's going to be the brave first hand? When we ask for questions, sometimes hands are like buses in London. There's nothing and then lots come along at once. Yeah. Okay, great question. How is IELTS important? The first and most obvious way in which it is important is that unless you already have a particular type of English language qualification, which frankly you guys almost certainly will not have, then you will need to take an IELTS exam and achieve a particular score in order to meet the conditions of the offer that the university may give you. Remember I said you apply to university before you have completed your A-levels. At that point, the universities, when they decide who to offer and a place to, they don't know A-level results. So the offers are conditional. They are conditional upon your A-level results. So, for example, at the top universities, at the very top universities, the offer might be that you must get at least A star, A star, A in 3 of your A-level subjects. If you achieve that, then you're almost there. But the offer will also be conditional on an IELTS score unless you already have an IELTS score which meets their requirements. The level, as I said earlier, the level of IELTS that they will require varies from university to university, and it varies from course to course. Generally speaking, if you are able to achieve IELTS 7.0, are you familiar with the IELTS testing system? It tests 4 categories: reading, writing, listening, speaking. If you get 7.0 at least in all 4 categories, then you are going to meet the requirements of almost all universities and all courses. The London School of Economics is an excellent example of that. That is precisely the requirement that they have had in the last couple of years. IELTS 7.0 minimum in all 4 categories. And I stress in all 4 categories. That means if you get 7.5, 7.5, 7, 6.5, you're not going to the LSE. Okay? So that's a pretty clear. There will be some universities, and well, the very top universities for certain courses may require higher than 7. Law, for example, at the top universities might. So the first reason why IELTS is really important is that that is the test which you will almost certainly need to take in order to get to the universities in the UK, and more particularly the top universities. But actually, to go to any universities, you will probably need to take the IELTS test, but you wouldn't need quite such a high score. 6.0 would get you into many universities for most courses. Okay? But there is a second reason why IELTS is also important, and that is, and I touched upon it earlier, in order to get the top grades that you need to get into the top universities, especially if you are the further that you move away from pure mathematics, and the more that you move into subjects which are more language rich, it becomes very difficult to get top grades in those subjects unless your English is at a certain level. And that is why at my college, and we are not unique in this regard at all, but we will only accept students on our A-level courses if they have a particular level of English language at the point that they join us. Because we have to be realistic. You know, if a student joins us for a 2-year A-level course with the equivalent of IELTS 4.5, then they would not get top grades at A-level in subjects like economics or geography, for example, or probably chemistry or physics, and quite possibly even pure mathematics. They simply wouldn't be able to access the course because the English language level isn't good enough. And also, they would struggle to get from 4.5 to the 7 that they would need to get into university in the time that they were with us. Okay, so 2 reasons why English language level is really important. 1, you need it in itself to get to UK universities, and you need a higher level to get to the top ones. Secondly, it's important in helping you to get your academic grades. I would also say, thirdly, a social factor, you know, in terms of making friends and understanding life and culture in the country in which you're living. I should say the UK university's preferred test is IELTS, but they may accept other internationally recognised alternatives. So, for example, if a student has a very high TOEFL score, that may mean that they don't need to take the IELTS. Certainly, if they have, if they have a GCSE, which is not quite the same as IGCSEs, in first language English, then they would not need to do another English language examination. But for you people, assuming that you're all in Thai schools as opposed to international schools, then you wouldn't have that qualification. So you would need to do an English language qualification during your years of A-levels in order to meet the university requirements. Does that answer the question?
If you come from any other curriculum other than level, how do university consider you?
How do they sort of assess you?
Or evaluate?
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have any disadvantage, or is it even possible?
Yeah, it's a very good question, which is how do universities assess or evaluate whether or not they should offer a place to a student who is applying from an educational system that does not involve A-levels or does not involve the IB diploma, which is something that you may have heard of. The IB diploma is absolutely equivalent to A-levels. And in fact, an increasing number of schools in England, the IB diploma, it stands for the International Baccalaureate. And this is very common at international schools around the world, including some here in Bangkok. But it is also increasingly being used by schools in England as an alternative to A-levels. So students who've done IB or A-level, no problem at all. The British university system is very used to dealing with those applications. As for students from other educational systems, it's more complicated. There are some countries from which students can apply and do apply successfully direct from their own country and go into, so they finish their high school in their own country and they can go straight into the first year of an undergraduate program in the UK. Of course, the grades that they achieve in their home country have an impact on which university they can get to, as is the case with A-level and IB candidates, but they can go direct from their home country into a UK university, so they don't need to come to a college like mine in between. There are a number of countries in Europe, in the European Union, for which that is true, and it is also true, for example, for Hong Kong. It's not true for Thailand. It's not true for mainland China, which is the largest supplier of overseas students to UK universities at the moment. So for students coming from countries like Thailand, like mainland China, for example, irrespective of how good the students' grades in high school are, they are basically unable to go directly into the first year of an undergraduate program. And so they would need some kind of bridge between high school in the home country and university in the UK. Of course, A-levels is one of those options. IB is another option. And there are others. I should say that there are foundation courses run by universities and other organizations which are designed specifically for that category of student. But very importantly, a student who does a foundation program will not be able to go to, for example, Oxford or Cambridge or the London School of Economics or Imperial, etc. Okay, for a student to have a chance of getting into those universities, if they are coming from Thailand, mainland China, then and many other countries, then they must do either A-levels or the IB. Does that go some way towards? Yeah. Yes. Okay, good. The question is, how can an Olympiad medal help you to get into the top universities? Well, the good news is that it definitely does. It helps both directly and indirectly. I'm going to say about the indirect first. Okay, if you've got a gold medal in a subject in the Olympiad, then there is you should be pretty angry if you go and do A-levels and don't get a top grade in that subject. Okay, you have proven that you are very good at that subject, and so you are going to be you should be a very strong candidate in A-level in that subject. So hopefully, if you have got a gold medal in maths or a science subject here, if you do that subject at A-level in the UK, you should be looking, firstly, get an A grade at AS, which is the highest grade that you can get in the first year, and you should be realistically aiming to get an extremely high mark as well, an extremely high raw mark and percentage, as opposed to just the grade. You know, you might be able to get an A grade with 80%, for example. But if you can get 98 or 100% in some of your AS papers, it means that in your personal statement or in the school's reference, that can be referred to in your application that goes to the universities. And so they can see that you are not only an A grade student in that subject, but that you are one of the very best A grade students in that subject. Okay, so number one, if you get if you perform outstandingly well in the Olympiad in mathematics or science here, you should be a very good candidate at A-level, one of the strongest candidates in that subject if you do it as an A-level or indeed IB in the UK. Secondly, it has a direct benefit on your application because you can refer to it in your personal statement. Okay, I have worked with quite a number of students who've come to us with Olympiad gold medals from here, and indeed who have also gone on to perform extremely well in the Olympiad competitions in UK when they've been doing their A-levels. Okay, yesterday I was at an event which was organised by the British Council, and some of the students who came to talk to me, I was showing them lists of students, names who have gone on to universities from my college, and one of them, more than one of those students on the list, more than one of the students who came to visit me said, I know this student. I said, well, how do you know them? I mean, is it your brother? Or they said, well, I don't really know them, but I have heard of them because they did so well. They were one of the very top students in chemistry, as it happens, when they were a high school student here. Well, that student was also a top Olympiad student in the UK, and not surprisingly, he's now studying chemistry at Oxford. Okay, but he came to us with that Olympic gold medal from here. We knew he was a very, very good candidate, and also very passionate about his subject. Okay? So, 2 reasons why an Olympic gold medal or an Olympic medal, Olympiad medal, let alone a gold one, but certainly a gold one, it's a great thing to have. Yeah? And absolutely, really, it's going to help you a lot. The universities know about the Olympiad competitions very, very well, and they understand that students who have done well in that are performing really, really well in their subjects. One of the problems that the top universities have, and I referred to it in my very first slide, it is difficult for them to know, of all the students who get top grades, and there are quite a lot, which are the really, really, really good ones? Because that's who they're looking for. So anything that you can produce as evidence to say, I'm not just good, I'm really good, it's going to help.
Yes, thank you very much for Ian. ขอเสียงปรบมือให้เอียนด้วยครับผู้ถูกขอเคลียร์3ประเด็นที่เขาเพิ่งตอบไปนะครับเป็นเรื่องใหญ่เหมือนกันเรื่องที่1คือคำถามเรื่อง IELTS นะครับ IELTS เนี่ยเป็น necessary สำหรับการขอวีซ่าเลยเด็กทุกคนที่จะขอวีซ่าเข้าประเทศอังกฤษจะต้องมี IELTS แต่ในเงื่อนไขของวีซ่าเนี่ยเรียก IELTS สกอร์แค่4นะครับคราวนี้ปัญหาที่เราเกิดขึ้นก็คืออย่างปีนี้กูตูมีเด็กประมาณ3คนได้ออฟเฟอร์ของ Imperial แล้วคะแนนเข้า Imperial ได้ด้วยแต่ IELTS เนี่ย Imperial เขาขอมาแค่7แต่ต้องได้7ทั้ง4พาร์ทเด็กกูตูได้ 7.5 แต่พาร์ท writing ได้ 6.5 คะแนน overall ได้ 7.5 อย่างนี้คือถูก reject นะครับเพราะฉะนั้นคำว่าขอ IELTS 7เนี่ยคือ average 7แล้วทุกพาร์ทแต่ต้องได้7นะครับอันนี้เคลียร์ประเด็นที่1เรื่อง IELTS ก่อนเพราะฉะนั้นให้ทุกคนซีเรียสถ้าจะไปเมืองนอกคือเตรียมภาษาอังกฤษแบบ take serious ได้เลยนะครับคำถามที่2ที่ครูทิมถามนะครับคือระบบ IB เนี่ยมีสมัยหนึ่งนะครับ Harvard ก็ออกมาพูดว่าเด็กที่เข้า Harvard ได้มหาลัยพบว่าเด็กจาก IB System เนี่ย success มากกว่าเด็กจาก American System แบบมี significant คำพูดของเขาแค่ครั้งเดียวโรงเรียนอินเตอร์ทั่วโลกที่เป็น American System เปลี่ยนเป็น IB 1,400 กว่าโรงปีเดียวปัจจุบันมี IB System ที่เป็นโรงเรียนอินเตอร์ประมาณเกือบ 5,000 โรงทั่วโลกนะครับดังนั้นในงานของพวกเราเนี่ยถ้าเด็กเราต้องการเตรียมเด็กเข้าอเมริกันพวกเรา prefer ที่จะเตรียมเป็น IB นะครับคราวนี้มาฝั่งอังกฤษทาง Cambridge ออกมาพูดว่า A level easier ในการ consider แล้วก็ easier ในการ success ใน Cambridge มากกว่า IB ดังนั้นถ้าเราต้องการไปฝั่ง British Cambridge Oxford A level น่าจะง่ายที่สุดแล้วก็ดีที่สุดแต่ถ้าเราต้องการไปฝั่งอเมริกันท็อปเนี่ย IB ดีที่สุดนะครับแต่ถ้าเราจบม.6 แล้วมันก็คือการไป prep school 1 ปีซึ่ง prep school 1 ปีมันน้อยมากๆทำอะไรไม่ได้ซึ่งถ้าจะต้องไปเสีย1 ปีแล้วต้องใช้ทุนเกินอีก2 ปีเนี่ยกูตู่คิดว่าพอเราอยู่ม.4 เราเข้ารอบโอลิมเปียดใช่ไหมฮะแล้วเราได้ทุนแน่นอน2 ปีตัวนี้เราเตรียมเลยวันที่เราจบม.6 เราเข้า Top University ของอเมริกาทีเดียวเสร็จนะครับคำถามที่1เมื่อกี้จบนะฮะเคลียร์เรื่อง IELTS คำถามที่2เรื่องของ IB กับ A level คำถามสุดท้ายก็คือเรื่องของการเข้าที่ดู Oxford Cambridge คุณตู่พูดนี้ก่อนนะฮะ Year 12 เราเรียก AS Year 13 เราเรียก A2 AS เกรดสูงสุดคือแค่ A A2 บวก AS รวมกันแล้วเฉลี่ยเรียกว่า A level A level เกรดสูงสุดคือ A star AS แค่ ค่ 80% ก็ได้ A แล้วออกฟอร์ดเคมบริดจ์ไม่เคยดูเกรดออกฟอร์ดเคมบริดจ์ดูมาร์กดูเปอร์เซ็นต์ที่ได้ออกฟอร์ดเคมบริดจ์คาดหวังมาร์กของ AS ที่ 95% เฉลี่ยทุก subject ไม่สนใจเกรดคุณไม่ต้องยื่นเกรด A มาเขาไม่แคร์เขาดูมาร์กว่าคุณได้ 95 up หรือเปล่า for each subject แต่ละ subject จะมี3 unit ห้าม unit ใด unit หนึ่งต่ำกว่า 90 จะถือว่าเด็กมี consistency ไม่พอนะครับเพราะฉะนั้นครูตู่ตอบประเด็นที่เอียนตอบเพื่อให้เราเคลียร์เนาะตอบเป็นภาษาไทยคราวนี้มาถึงประเด็นของเนื้องานแล้วครับพูดนิดหนึ่งว่าตัวครูตู่เองตัวครูปองตัวทีมแม้แต่เอียนที่มาเนี่ยเรามาทำงานนี้ให้ฟรีเพราะว่าเราประทับใจอาจารย์เย็นใจเราประทับใจอาจารย์สุวรรณแล้วเราเต็มใจที่จะเป็นส่วนหนึ่งของการพัฒนาเด็กของเราให้ประสบความสำเร็จนะครับคราวนี้แบบประเมินที่แนบมาในแฟ้มครับมันเป็นสิ่งที่มีค่าที่สุดสำหรับคนที่ยืนหน้าเวทีเพราะเราจะต้องเอาไปอ่านเพื่อประเมินตัวเองแล้วก็พัฒนาให้ยิ่งขึ้นไปนะครับขอความเมตตาช่วยทำแบบประเมินแบบซีเรียสให้เรานิดนึงนะครับแล้วก็ในแบบประเมินจะมีการให้กรอกรายละเอียดของผู้ทำประเมินก็คืออยากได้อีเมล address กับเบอร์โทรเพราะว่าทันทีที่เรามี professor ต่างประเทศมาซึ่งเราจะมีบ่อยมากตัวแทนจาก Cambridge จาก Oxford ตัวแทนจากโรงเรียนมาปกติเราจะส่งอีเมลให้ว่าเราจะมีงานใหญ่ที่คนนี้มาพูดเรื่องนี้ที่นี่เพราะฉะนั้นในส่วนที่เป็นอีเมล address กับเบอร์โทรเนี่ยเขียนให้มันเคลียร์นิดหนึ่งเราจะได้ส่งข้อมูลให้ทุกท่านได้นะครับแล้วก็ช่วยประเมินพวกเราแบบซีเรียสเพื่อว่าเราจะได้เอาไปพัฒนาตัวเองนะครับ
ยิ่งโดยเฉพาะยิ่งเลคเชอร์แรกเมื่อเช้าเนี่ยเปรียบเทียบไปเห็นชัดเจนมากเราจะขึ้น YouTube เราจะพยายามเข้าให้ทุกคนที่เข้ามาเนี่ยไปดูแล้วก็กระจายต่อให้ทุกคนมีความเข้าใจให้ถูกต้องแล้วก็อาจารย์ใจฝากไว้เมื่อก่อนจะกลับไปก็คือว่าอย่างนักเรียนทุนถ้าสมมติปีหน้าอะไรเนี้ยบางคนเป็นนักเรียนทุนเนี่ยถ้าทุกคนยังไม่ใช่จบม.6 ทันทีอยากจะพยายามทดลองที่จะใช้ระบบที่เตรียมตัวจากเมืองไทยไปก่อนเนี่ยให้รีบมาคุยกันเลยนะฮะทางเราจะพยายามหาทางทำสิ่งนี้ให้เร็วที่สุดเท่าที่เร็วได้มันเพื่อทุกอย่างเพื่อทุกคนจะได้ทำการไปศึกษาต่อได้ผลประโยชน์อย่างเต็มที่นะทั้งตัวเราเองทั้งผลการศึกษาทั้งคุณพ่อคุณแม่ทั้งประเทศไทยการประหยัดงบประมาณทุกอย่างมันเป็นหมดเลยนะฮะแล้วถ้าสิ่งนี้คนไทยเราเตรียมตัวให้คนไทยไปเรียนต่อเมืองนอกให้ได้เนี่ยเราก็ไม่ต้องไปเสียเงินผ่านกพ.ไปยังเพรสซูอะไรต่างๆอีกมากมายสิ่งที่มันคือความตั้งใจนะความตั้งใจก็หวังว่าทั้งนักเรียนทั้งคุณพ่อคุณแม่คงจะได้ข้อมูลประกอบการตัดสินใจอย่างเต็มที่มากขึ้นนะคะในนามของมูลนิธินะฮะรวมให้กับสวท.ด้วยจริงต้องขอบคุณสวท.ที่กรุณามากให้สถานที่เลี้ยงดูผู้เสืออย่างดีนะฮะจริงเราเป็นโคพาร์ทเนอร์กันเพราะว่าทั้งสวท.ก็ดูแลนักเรียนทุนสวน.เป็นเพียงต้นทางที่พยายามจัดหานักเรียนส่งมาให้เข้าทางเส้นนี้แต่สุดท้ายเราก็ดูแลด้วยกันนะฮะที่เราต้องขอบคุณเป็นพิเศษก็คงต้องเป็นครูตู่และคณะเย็น Thank you very much for coming คือเราคงหาโอกาสนี้ไม่ได้นะอย่างครูตู่พูดเราเองก็ ครูตู่บอกเสมอว่าครูตู่ทำงานนี้ให้ฟรีไม่คิดอะไรทั้งสิ้นนะให้โอกาสเราที่เรามาการ์เด้นแล้วก็ยังรู้สึกไม่จุใจเพราะวันนั้นน้อยมากนักเรียนเราไปน้อยมากจะเห็นรู้สึกจะมีคนเดียวที่นั่งข้างหลังที่มาซ้ำนะที่เหลือก็ไม่ใช่อีกเลยนะฮะเราก็รู้สึกว่ามันยังไม่ใช่เป้าหมายที่เราอยากจะเห็นครูตู่ก็บอกยินดีจัดให้อีกครั้งหนึ่งนะอีกครั้งหนึ่งก็หวังว่าวันนี้อย่างน้อยถึงแม้คณิตศาสตร์กับคอมพิวเตอร์ไม่ได้มานะฮะด้วยติดเรียนนะฮะชีวะเรายังไม่ได้ตัวแทนเข้ามาก็ไม่เป็นไรนะฮะถ้าเห็นว่าเป็นประโยชน์กระจายกันออกไปแล้วถ้าคิดว่ามีความต้องการที่จะมีการจัดอย่างนี้อีกในปีต่อๆไปก็ลองสื่อสารเข้ามาเราก็จะพยายามทำให้นะต้องไม่จะขอบคุณยังไงให้มันคุ้มค่าได้กับคณะของครูตู่ทุกคนนะทั้งครูปองนะครูทีมและทุกคนที่มาช่วยกันทำให้พวกเราตาสว่างขึ้นนะแล้วก็จะได้ตัดสินใจ กำหนดแนวทางชีวิตของเราในการศึกษาต่อได้อย่างดียิ่งขึ้นนะคะต้องขอบคุณเป็นที่สุดจากหัวใจนะขอบคุณให้ทุกคนขอบคุณทุกครั้งค่ะ
ขอบคุณครับขอบพระคุณอาจารย์ทวนมากๆขออนุญาตสั้นๆอีกนิดนึงครับคือขอบคุณสอวนขอบคุณสสวทที่สำคัญที่สุดคือขอบคุณผู้ฟังทุกคน